What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine today, joined by my man Jacob Punturi, as we dive into a very wild day for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you guys can subscribe to us at youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, you can find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Jacob, thank you for being here. Excited to dive into a day I don't think many people saw coming. You looked at it, we all went to bed last night and just thinking, all right, there's at this point nothing. We're waiting for Aaron Rodgers. We're waiting for OTAs, rookie mini camps on Friday. We're going to have stuff to talk about. I woke up, I'm not lying to you, dude. My phone was red hot. Was like, it hurt to touch. That's how warm it was when I woke up at 6:35 this morning to it just exploding. My wife getting some phone calls and text messages from people telling her to call me or for me to call them. Wild times. From the outside looking in, George Pickens is gone. What went through your brain at 7:05 this morning when we all got the news?
I thought we were really entering this boring phase of Steelers offseason. Rookie OTAs, great. And then we were just going to coast, just see what happens until training camp starts. But nope, that was not the case at all. I was shocked. Seriously, I was not expecting the Steelers to make this deal happen anytime soon after it didn't happen at the draft. So yeah, I was shocked when I woke up this morning and started getting to work, and I was like, oh, and Pickens is not a Steeler anymore.
Yeah, wow. It is a wild. I will say, look at yesterday. You could go back to January. I've been talking about this. We've been talking about this collectively, how the Pittsburgh Steelers could be moving on from George Pickens this offseason. They're open to the idea, but it's not going to come without trade compensation that they felt was pretty good, was good enough at least. And I'm going to be honest, the market was nowhere near what I thought it was going to be. Gives me a couple of thoughts. The first one being maybe the Aaron Rodgers market is not what we think it is either. Maybe 20, 25 million is 10 million, like he said, and maybe that's what's going to end up happening, but we'll get to Aaron Rodgers here in a minute. When it came to GP, I thought late first, early second round pick. Worst you're getting is Kansas City, Buffalo at the end of the second round, maybe for 2026. Once the NFL draft left, I thought it was certain that he was here until July, at least. He's gone significantly earlier than I thought. It shows that the Pittsburgh Steelers are just done. I don't think it's necessarily a George Pickens thing. Everybody all day long is talking, oh, well, this just shows how bad it was, how bad in the locker room he was, and how big of a disruption he was, and they're ready. No, I think it was just like plain and clear. The Pittsburgh Steelers have done a lot of effort in the last 2 years to get rid of all of the noise. George Pickens was the loudest of the noise, and they just said, all right, look, we have to move on from this final piece. This is the best we're going to get. And that's what I said it this morning in the call-in show for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think it was a matter of he did something right now and we got to get rid of it, or, we're done babying him or whatever. I truly believe that it was July's going to come. He's not going to play because he's going to hold out because of his contract. We're not going to want to get him one. And they were only getting a 4th round pick during the NFL draft, which is when when it starts to peak or his value starts to peak. If that's all they were getting then, and they're offered a 3rd now in July, when they don't have leverage on a trade, maybe it's a 5th or a 6th. And then at that point, they're faced with a whole different dilemma. I mean, the 3rd round pick, I think nobody's happy with. Nobody was expecting. What was your thoughts on the compensation?
I mean, yeah, it feels too low. For the impact that Pickens has brought to the team, it feels like he was worth way more than just a 3rd round pick in next year's draft. But I think I feel sort of similar to you. And then I'm just stuck on, they had to have come to a conclusion that his value was like just maxed out completely. Like they were not going to get anything more from him for him. And they weren't going to sign him. That was obviously clear. And so I think they were just like, this is it. It's either we lose him for nothing in, a season, or we get a 3rd round pick in 2026. And yeah, I don't think anyone's going to say this was a home run trade for Omar Khan, but I don't know. I just feel like more than anything, it just says that they just, they don't know what's going on with their offense at all. That's my takeaway.
I was going to say, I was going to let you kind of dive into that. They don't, Is it bad from your perspective? How bad is it right now for the Pittsburgh? Because you look at the Steelers. I saw Matt Miller today say the Steelers, this is the worst roster Mike Tomlin's ever had. I disagree with that. I think the defense looks fine. The offense looks like the two biggest positions are the worst positions, but the rest of the offense looks okay. Like how bad are the Pittsburgh Steelers right now? Are they that bad?
No, I don't want to like jump off the diving board of panic into this full on, like they're going to go 0-17 or something in this upcoming season. I don't think they're that bad. I think this makes them worse.
Okay.
What I'm stuck on, what I'm going back and forth on is this the Steelers, punting on the season, not knowing what's going on, or is this the Steelers doing that thing where they identify when a player's about to drop off and getting rid of them before that happens in Pittsburgh? And I wouldn't be shocked if Pickens has a good year, a great year in Dallas, but then afterwards, are we talking about, was this the right time to get rid of Pickens 2 or 3 years down the line? And we're looking back at it retrospectively and going, yeah, the Steelers actually cut bait at the right time. So I'm not sure, like the emotions are high right now, understandably so. But yeah, I don't think they're like the worst offense under Tomlin or the worst offense in like the AFC by a long shot.
No, I agree. And I still anticipate Aaron Rodgers is coming. Like, I want to dive into replacement options before we dive into Aaron Rodgers, but we could hit on this. Like to me, it looks like Aaron Rodgers just dodged a little bit of a bullet, and now he's kind of going to get to handpick. That was the one part of Aaron Rodgers that like I was trying to deflect for a long time, is the Aaron Rodgers is going to come in here and be like, roll out the red carpet for him, and he gets anything he wants. And the Steelers are not looking to do that. This is going to be the one piece of, I think, the whole thing that Aaron Rodgers does get to have a say in, is like, hey, we need another wide receiver. Okay, well, Romeo Doubs and Allen Lazard, pretty okay wide receivers, pretty not so terrible wide receivers. Yeah. And both of them have connections to Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he wants Gabe Davis. Maybe he's fine with whoever's on the roster, but I think he gets to kind of, I don't know, handpick that a little bit. And I don't think this impacts Aaron Rodgers whatsoever. Like I don't think it changes his mind. It's all he's got. And if he wants to play football, it's the Steelers. Doesn't matter who's there.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think this impacts Aaron Rodgers one way or the other. I think the pitch to him was you get to throw the ball to DK Metcalf, and then that was pretty much it. So yeah, I don't think that is going to sway one way or the other on Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, I do think even more so, like he's just wait until closer to training camp, and he's probably going to play here. Yes. But yeah, so I don't see anything changing on that front.
No, I agree. All right, so let's dive into replacement options, because that's the biggest thing here is George Pickens is gone. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in somewhat panic mode. It just kind of feels like the world's crashing around them. And I will say this is the first time. I kind of want your opinion on this too. This is the first time where Omar Khan, in my eyes, took a shot that might come back to bite him in the ass. Like this one might be the one that people are very upset, because people loved George Pickens. Whether they had the issues or not, if you were able to just turn on the TV on Sunday, you loved what George Pickens can do. Yep. Third round pick is not enough to say, get rid of your 24-year-old star. That's just, that doesn't mean you won that trade. It's got to go down to if it works out or not. I think this is the first time where Omar actually could lose this thing and look really bad in the process. And that's because he needs to find a replacement option like right now. There are options. The easy initial question, what's your confidence level that they are going to replace George, or are they going to stay in-house?
Ooh, I honestly don't have the most confidence that someone gets signed outside of the organization in the next, let's say, call it 2 months until training camp gets here. I really don't see it. I don't see why they would do it. It feels like basically just, I don't know, copy and pasting. If you're going to go out and just get another pass catcher who has a couple of 600+ yard seasons, then, you just lost one and you traded them away willingly, who brought in more than that. So I don't really see the veteran option right now being brought in. But I mean, there's no denying that there are some attractive options. I feel like Romeo Doubs is really the only one that would make me feel like we got a valuable replacement. for Pickens, just because he's 24, 25. This is going to be his 4th season in the league. I know that. So, and he has a history of catching the ball and bringing in. His rookie year, I have a note here, was 42 receptions and 425 yards. So if that's the baseline, like that's somewhat of a compliment to DK Metcalf. So yeah, I think they could bring in something. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, though. What do you think?
I think there are, I don't know how I don't know. I'm just guessing. Let's just lay that out there. I haven't heard anything about a replacement option. Nobody's talked about a replacement option. I have, Jerry Dulac said earlier that right now they're not thinking of trading for a wide receiver. I think at some point they are going to trade for a wide receiver, or at least sign a wide receiver. I could see them saying, I could see Omar Khan overreacting and saying, we have to get somebody right now because we've done this before and it did not work. And we cannot do Van Jefferson again. They can't happen. And Robert Woods, Bobby Trees, he's Van Jefferson 2.0. You don't want that. That's the last thing you want if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I could see them doing that and saying, we have to go get somebody right now, which in my eyes leaves you with 2 options, 2 pretty normal, doesn't really raise the roof, but probably okay number 2 options. And I think that's it, is what you're looking for has to be a number 2, right? You're not going to get a superstar. You're not getting Brandon Ayuk. You might go out there and get 2 names that I got. Gabe Davis, who was just released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. That dude played 10 games last season. He had 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, nothing. You know what I mean? 26 years old, still has a lot of potential, but has never really been the crazy pass catcher that, everybody kind of made him out to be for that one season in Buffalo. Alan Lazard, he is coming off an injury. Yeah. I think they all are to some degree. Alan Lazard played just 12 games last season. He's my other. And at least he had 6 touchdowns, 500 yards. To me, that's not terrible. As crazy as it sounds, I think you're looking at 2, different spectrums, but not because of age or anything like that. Alan Lazard's 29, Gabe Davis is 26. I don't think either of them are here for longer than a year, and then the Steelers move on. You're looking at what you could get. And if you're going to get an Alan Lazard, you're at least trying to get somebody who's got breakaway speed, who can go out there and make these deep balls and stretch the field. And I think honestly, that's a closer option to the Pittsburgh Steelers that replaces George Pickens. Gabe Davis, in my eyes, is the easy one, where you could sign him for absolutely nothing because he just got cut and he's still going to make $12 million. And you could say, here's $2 million, come play with Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf because nobody else wants you. Those are my two options for the Steelers. Romeo Doubs, in my eyes, that's the best one you could get. If you could go out and get Romeo Doubs, sign him to a 2-year extension for somewhat cheap, and then go from there, replace a guy in 2 years, I think that's the move. But if I had to guess, it's Alan Lazard. My second option would be Gabe Davis. That's my prediction for the Steelers.
It's a bold one. As I'm listening to you talk about all of this, I just keep thinking about Freiermuth, and is this just a vote of confidence in him more than anything in the offense? Is that the goal? And I could see the Steelers being stubborn in the fact that they're all right, we got rid of this star playmaking wide receiver, but we gave all this money to Pat last year because he is our number 1 tight end, and Arthur Smith loves to utilize that tight end, baby. So let's just make him the de facto number 2 target. So I'm wondering if that is the long-term play moving forward, or if they really are we need to take a step back and evaluate who could fill in that number 2 role right now, and then not make a hasty decision moving forward.
My thought with Freiermuth is, I'm a big Pat guy, but I went into last season as a big Pat guy. I was extend Pat Freiermuth. He's going to be your dude. He's your number 2 wide receiver. Make this that kind of offense. And truthfully, I think that Arthur Smith can do that. But then last year happened and nothing that didn't happen. I don't know if that was Russell Wilson. I'm probably a bigger Russell Wilson critic than most, just because I just don't think he could see over the offensive line. And I think that was a massive issue. Yeah. I'm not even I looked at this guy dead in the eyes. I'm 5'8", man. I'm not where we are the same person. And I just don't know if a quarterback change makes a significant change in what Pat can do. If that's the case, awesome. I also think that Roman Wilson is an option for like in-house. You know, Jeremy Fowler's coming out here saying that the Steelers have faith in Roman Wilson. They're excited about Roman Wilson and what he can bring in year 2, a totally different player. The Steelers were not impressed by Roman Wilson last year, just off the field. They didn't think that he was able to grasp the playbook as well as they thought or they wanted him to. Maybe that changes your faith level, your confidence level in Roman Wilson. I don't know if I have one, to be honest with you. I don't know if I have a confidence level in Roman, because I just I eliminated him so much from my mind last year that I just don't look at him as an option to become the number 2 right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like right now, if we're talking about in-house replacements, Calvin Austin is the guy who's going to get the more reps and would get the number 2 position. But yeah, I feel like Roman Wilson has given not many people much to go on in terms of confidence. And so I can understand why you wouldn't feel super confident about him going into this upcoming season. But why then, we're a year removed from the Steelers taking him in the 3rd round of the draft. They really, really valued him whenever they selected him. So I'm just, an injury aside, how far can you have fallen in terms of your performance off the field, in terms of grasping the playbook and fitting in with the locker room, whatever they're looking for in terms of taking that next step? How poor of a performance was he bringing that they just are he feels like an afterthought and then some entering this wide receiver conversation, which is scary. I
agree. Like, Roman to me is just, he's not, until proven otherwise. I would expect Robert Woods to be on the field more than Roman Wilson. He's just not a guy that I right now have just like any belief that the Steelers believe in him. They got to show me these things, and you can't trust their words. That's Omar Khan went on a work keeping George Pickens parade. He was campaigning all over the place for George Pickens to stay in Pittsburgh. That lasted 11 days after the draft. That's how close we are to the NFL draft. And he said, all right, yeah, we're good. 2 weeks yesterday, Omar Khan said, no, we're not trading George Pickens. That's not happening. So you got to listen to what they say. I agree with you. I think Romeo Doubs what are you trading for Romeo Doubs? If you're the Steelers, what are you trading for Romeo Doubs?
I mean, you can't give up more than a 4th round pick. I don't, because
I agree.
Otherwise, then you look stupid. If you give up a better statistical wide receiver and a visually more dominant wide receiver for a 3rd round pick and a swapping of a 6th and a 5th, and you would then give up, say, a 2nd or a 3rd round pick to go get a worse wide receiver replacement, and then I think Omar Khan looks foolish, just upside down, inside out. That's a terrible move. I think Romeo Doubs would be the best replacement. I think I stand pretty firm in that right now, but man, you can't give up more than a mid-round draft pick to make this whole sort of trade chain make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. They do have 3. Okay, so this is where things get complicated, I think, is you do have 3 third-round picks next year. Okay, so if you're the Steelers, you're looking at it going, we got to get a quarterback. We're going to have to trade up and get a quarterback. That's going to cost at least 2 of those thirds. The other third, maybe we could use as a wide receiver. But at that point, what do you do? You're just going in there with a 2nd round pick, maybe. And if you think a 1st and 2 thirds is all it's going to take to get into the top 10, you're nuts. It's not going to happen. I could see the Steelers giving up 2 firsts, 2 thirds to get into the top 10 next year if they're picking 20th and going to get their quarterback. That leaves them with the 3rd round pick. And a 2nd, I guess. And maybe that's okay, maybe that's when you try to get a wide receiver, but maybe that's when you try to trade for a wide receiver. I think a 4th to me is to be very honest with you, if George is going for a 4th during the NFL draft and Romeo Doubs is also a bit disgruntled because last year he had the whole I'm not getting the looks, blah, 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 that was going on. If all of that is happening, then you could probably get him for a 5th, right? You could probably get him for less. He's not George Pickens level. I mean, his best season's 600 yards. That's not GP. I could see a 4th. I think that's what they have to do though, to be what's better for you. Okay. To lose this trade and give up George Pickens for a 3rd and go out there and sell a 4th for Romeo Doubs, or to to just say we gave up George for a third and we don't want to lose that. We have to keep it for next season?
I think it's worse to just stand pat and do nothing, because then I think it feels like an admission that this season is not very important, is not the priority. And while that might actually be what's happening in-house, you cannot just outwardly present that for the entire season that, like, you know what, we're making these moves because 25 is just a real skippable year in the Steelers organization.
Do you think that's a real thing? You think that they might actually be thinking that in-house?
No, I don't think so. I have a hard time thinking that Mike Tomlin ever would buy into losing as his day job. I think that man just cares way too much. I think Omar Khan is way too competitive to do that as well. I think they do understand, and maybe there is some foresight coming into play here in terms of maybe we do have to get a little bit worse sacrifice in the short term to be better in the long term. But yeah, I don't think they're trying to tank in-house or anything like that. No. I'd be shocked if that ever was the truth or being talked about behind closed doors.
I think Art Rooney would dissolve the Pittsburgh Steelers before he let anybody actually tank. I just don't think that would be the case. But I really genuinely look at it and say the Pittsburgh Steelers have looked at the last 2 off seasons as, how do we clean house? Where do we go? How do we get rid of all of the noise? How do we completely turn it over so that we can actually go and try to win a Super Bowl? I think they're pretty darn close, to be honest with you. But George Pickens was if George worked, they're so significantly closer, because you keep your second round pick. You don't get DK Metcalf. You just stick it out with George. You make a move at wide receiver, whether it's the NFL draft or free agency or wherever. That's your wide receiver too. And George is the guy that's making $150 million this offseason. If George works out, if he's no trouble, George became an issue, a loud issue, and you had to move on. That had to be the end of George Pickens. All right, so let's close it with this one. What's your prediction? What happens? The Pittsburgh Steelers right now, if week 1 started today, walk into wherever, whether that's Acrisure Stadium or somewhere else, Mason Rudolph is their starting quarterback unless Will Howard beats them out, and DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, and Robert Woods take the field as your starting wide receivers. I mean, what happens? The Steelers are the only team right now that it is May 7th. OTA start in a week, and they have no clue what the hell's going on. They have no clue what the hell's going on with this season. What's your prediction for them?
It's a funny one, isn't it? If this is the roster that lines up week 1, they are going to be a very bad team. No other quarterback additions, no one else to help the wide receiver depth. They will be a 4 to 5 win football team, and those 4 to 5 wins will not be impressive. It's, again, I'm not diving off this panic board just yet. There's so much time, so many little pieces can shake out and change, and then all of a sudden, boom, the Steelers are back. But right now, this roster, not encouraging, not optimistic. No. Offensively, especially, very bad. My prediction would be that this offense would be a stinker.
Okay, but what's your prediction on what happens? Who comes to Pittsburgh? Who starts at quarterback? Who's next to DK Metcalf? What's the outcomes there?
I think Aaron Rodgers is coming in to be the quarterback. The timeline still in flux completely, but Aaron Rodgers will be QB1 for week 1. I think DK Metcalf is obviously your number 1, and I think they're going to bring in some sort of veteran that they can sign. I think Gabe Davis is the first person that I'm going to think of that kind of fits that bill, but I'm not guaranteeing that Gabe Davis is going to be a Steeler, but I think Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to be the quarterback, and some veteran that has more than a couple years experience will be the number 2, someone like Gabe Davis, and then Calvin Austin at number 3.
And then Calvin Austin, the number 3. I mean, just yikes, man. Just we knew it was coming. That's the thing is you knew it was coming the whole time. Anybody who a lot of people tried to deny it. This is stupid. There's not real reports. They aren't happening. And it was coming. Okay. And the reason that everybody tried to deny it is because there's no backup plan. And there still is today, no backup plan. And it's the one piece every season you try to ignore, that one part of the Steelers that you just know is going to bring them down. 2 years ago was, for many years, it was the offense looks incredible. We're not going to talk about the offensive line, but they look incredible. And the offensive line was terrible. I mean, Kendrick Green, terrible. And then it was George Pickens and Van Jefferson. Well, Van Jefferson's catching 150 balls every day after practice. He's going to be great. He wasn't. He was not good at all, actually. And the Steelers wide receiver 2 was a disaster. This year, it is the same thing. I think they're going to overreact, but I don't think it's going to work out. Aaron Rodgers is still my prediction at quarterback. Nothing's changed. Nothing's, to be honest, the Steelers, this stays on par with everything the Steelers have done this offseason with Aaron Rodgers. They have said from the jump that they are not sacrificing their future for a quarterback right now. And that includes saying, if George Pickens is not part of our future and we need to prepare for that today, then we don't really care how this impacts Aaron Rodgers. To be honest, we really, really do not care how it impacts any quarterback, because our quarterback's coming a year from now. That's how the Steelers have approached this entire offseason. Aaron has respected a lot of that. I don't know if he's going to respect this one as much, if he's going to be as thrilled about this, but I also think that he, at 41 years old, dealing with some stuff off the field already, is not sitting there going, man, George Pickens is known to be the worst diva in the NFL right now. That's an issue. That's a big issue. I think there's a part of him that might be relieved. Aaron's the quarterback. Wide receiver, I do think it's going to be, I honestly do think it's going to be Allen Lazard. Like, I just don't understand how it's not. Like, the Jets have wide receivers. Lazard was good, but was then not good, was then good again. And who knows what's going on. Aaron leaves. Things are weird. I think that the Steelers this is a classic Aaron Rodgers situation where he goes somewhere and then his buddy comes and everything's fine and dandy. And I just think that's what's going to happen. Lazard for a 6th round pick, something like that, in maybe the 5th. Maybe you send him the 2025 or the 2027 5th and say, bring on Allen Lazard. That's my prediction at wide receiver. Big yikes. Definitely a bit, but we saw it coming. We saw it coming. Where it goes from here, I don't know. What? Okay. Well, last question I got for you, and then we'll start answering everybody else's. If that turns out to be the Steelers, they get Allen Lazard, Aaron Rodgers, are they a playoff team?
Gosh, I think they'd be very close into the last wild card spot.
Okay.
There's just I can't. I would have to feign being intimidated by a wide receiver core that is DK Metcalf and Allen Lazard with 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers slinging the ball to them. But man, if you have enough bodies to just constitute a roster that's decent, the Steelers somehow find a way to win 9 games. So
that's true.
Why I could never definitively say they're a 5-win team if they have an actual starting quarterback, but yeah. They're not. I don't think they're a 10-11 win team with that group that you mentioned.
No, I agree. I mean, maybe, just maybe. And I still think you got to ride it out with Aaron Rodgers, but I don't sit here today and say that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a threat by no means. They took their new starting batch of guys is 5-12 Aaron Rodgers, 5-12 Allen Lazard, and I believe 9-8 to DK Metcalf to replace 10-win George Pickens at 24 years old and Russell Wilson / Justin Fields that both have starting jobs at other teams. It's a bad setup for the Pitt. Again, I think they're on the verge, just like you said. It's hard. I would never say the Steelers are going to finish in the bottom 15 of the NFL. I wouldn't be shocked if things got real bad. But again, they could replace them, but I would not be shocked if things got rough. All right. With that said, that's everything on our agenda. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to start diving into all of your questions. So toss them in the chat. With that said, we'll be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All right. Shout out to all our members. Shout out to all our super chatters. If you got questions, toss them in the chat. Also, if you did not check out the call-in show this morning, it was a good one. Shout out to our boy Stephen Cornfield, who I will be matching a donation to. I think I've picked the Children's Hospital. I think that's what we're gonna rock out. The deal was, Jake, that the bet was week 1, George Pickens is on the roster, I have to shave my mustache, or I have to shave my beard, which is, I don't think ever been done in the history of Noah's Track since I've had a beard. If lost, Steven's got to donate $100 to charity of my choosing. I'm obviously, I'm not going to just let him give $100 away without helping out some kids. So we'll figure it out. But shout out to Stephen Cornfield. All right, let's dive into it. Cody Silva, let's bring the Packers to the Jets to the Steelers. Alan Lazard, I'm all about. Okay, if you had to pick, rank them of all the top name possibilities for the Pittsburgh Steelers out there. Romeo Doubs, Gabe Davis, in-house Roman Wilson / Calvin Austin, Alan Lazard. Who, how you ranking them? Give me your 4.
Okay. Roman Wilson at the bottom.
Yes.
It was a tough one. I know. Crazy. Calvin Austin, Lazard, Doubs.
Where's
Davis? Gabe Davis in between Doubs and Lazard.
Okay. I think I agree. Doubs, Davis, Lazard, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson. Yikes. But you never know. All right. Miguel, anyone thinks the Steelers got fleeced? Remember, 30 other GMs thought a third was too much. His value has been greatly misinflated. Third is exactly what the league thought he was worth. In my honest opinion, Dallas overpaid. Miguel has been definitely a critic of George Pickens throughout the last couple of months, but I will say, Miguel, here, look it. You're not wrong. We thought it was going to be a second. The Steelers made a move now because they genuinely thought that in July, when he's causing a stir and a ruckus and he's pulling Brandon Ayuk, that value is going to go to a 5th, a 6th. And at that point, Dallas said, we need a wide receiver. We'll give you a third. And the Steelers said, okay, great. I texted somebody in Dallas today. I texted somebody in Dallas and I texted a buddy this morning just to send him the news. He's a Dallas Cowboys fan. The guy in Dallas said that he doesn't know if it's going to work out. The buddy of mine texted me back and said, dude, even for a third, I don't know how I feel about this. And then went on to explain that he's very nervous about who George Pickens is. The league knows this. The league knows the drama that comes, the baggage that comes with George Pickens. It's not great. It's not a great look. But that is why the value was there. You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. DKB17, send a 4 and swaps for Olave. He's cheap through 26. I don't know. Do you think a 4th round? I think you'd have to give up the 3rd. I mean, I think I'd give up a 4th. Would you give up a 4th for Chris Olave? Would you give up a 3rd?
Man, not philosophically.
Okay.
In the case of the Steelers needing more talent, especially at the wide receiving position, yeah, I think you might have to get aggressive if, for someone like Olave who is young and under control for another season. I might do that. I might do that now that the Steelers are desperate, but I would wait as long as possible to make that move.
Yeah, I agree. I would see what other options are available, but Olave would be a great option. The problem with that is that he's cheap through 26. You get 2 more years out of him. You get 1 more, through the end of this season, I believe. I don't know if he might be extended, or maybe they picked up his 5th-year option. If that's the case, then you get 2 years. If that's the case, I mean, he is cheap. It is a good move. You're probably gonna have to give up a 3rd for a 3rd-round pick. You probably want him for more than 2 seasons. That would be my guess. I mean, I think he's a better option than anybody else on the market right now. Olave is. I mean, he carries everything you'd be looking for. It's got to, I mean, it's not like sitting in New Orleans right now and saying, Tyler Shuck, man, that's That's actually who I want to play for. I don't want to go to Pittsburgh. I think you might have the upper hand there if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I kind of like Olave. Olave for a fourth, I'd make happen tomorrow without question.
Yeah.
Cody Silva, I'd rather bring in Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett signed with the Tennessee Titans, for anybody who missed that. Tyler Lockett would have been, pretty good. Is Tyler Lockett a number 2 wide receiver, though?
At this point, I don't consider him to be. All the respect in the world to Tyler Lockett in his career. But yeah, I don't want him as my number 2 wide receiver right now.
I think respectfully, I think that he comes with a lot of, he's Calvin Austin, and I think you have a Calvin Austin. I mean, if Tyler Lockett was still on the market and you could get him for literally nothing, beautiful. You know what I mean? I would have signed yesterday and been like, all right, there you go. There's the replacement. I think he's better than Robert Woods, obviously. He still has enough in the tank. He's still a reliable third down guy. I'd go Tyler Lockett. The Steelers better be shooting higher. That's my, at the end of the day, like, I don't think that Gabe Davis and Alan Lazard are better than Tyler Lockett or a better answer than Tyler. I think Gabe Davis has the potential to be, for sure, has the potential to be, but I think a lot of that depends on who the quarterback is and if they can find him.
Yeah.
What the hell did we do to deserve this beep show that's going on with the Steelers? Why does everyone see these issues coming from the front office and coaches? At the end of the day, the Pittsburgh Steelers, like I keep saying, they are trying very hard to clean house, which is not always great on paper. Doesn't always look real good, but it just shows that they were ready, man. They were ready to move on from George Pickens and move on to a younger, a new regime in Pittsburgh with a new set of guys. And they've done a lot of that to kind of fix that culture. I mean, it started with getting rid of Kenny Pickett and Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris, and now George Pickens was the last one. And they just said, all right, this is it. This is the end of it. But it does show how crazy things must have been, because to move on from a 24-year-old after an 800-yard season with 1 year left on a very cheap deal is when the Dallas Cowboys are not paying him. That's the craziest part, is like, they're like, yeah, he's going to play on the final year of his deal. Well, if that was the case, why'd you do it now? That shows how upset the Steelers must have been at George Pickens. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have 2 quick ones. I think the Steelers love to believe that their organization and system is bigger than any one player's potential flaws as an individual. And I think, in the social media age, we can see so much about what these players are like in every single facet that maybe it's not the best thing to know every single thing about someone like a George Pickens. And then 2, I think it might still just be best for business to bring in a player like George Pickens for 3-4 years, get this incredible production out of him, never have to pay him that big extension, and then, continue moving on to play Steelers football. So I think there's 2, like, I'm not necessarily sure that the Steelers front office was so unaware when they drafted Pickens that this might be a problem. I think they were like, this probably will be an issue that we've dealt with several times before, and we have a sort of blueprint as to how we will deal with this and then kind of go forward from there. So
I agree.
Those are my 2 quick hits on that.
No, I agree. A means to an end. Should we try to get Jalen McMillan from the Bucs? I like Jalen McMillan, excuse me. Tall body, physical wide receiver. I like Jalen McMillan. I have no idea. I mean, I can look it up here if he did anything last season for the Bucs, but I mean, the Bucs did. I mean, they got Chris Godwin back. They drafted Emeka Egbuka this offseason. Like, maybe. Yeah. I will say that Jalen McMillan's a younger option if that's the route that you're going to go, but you're kind of spitballing at that point, right?
Yeah, these all feel like spitballing options. I would love it, and I like this idea overarching of just getting younger for whoever the replacement is for George Pickens, because I would like to have this person around for more than just one season. But yeah, I don't know if Jalen McMillan does that much to excite me more than any of these other names we've been going over here on this pod.
I agree. I think that, like, again, I don't mind the move. I think it's a quality option but it's another Roman Wilson. Like, you're hoping that it works out. Shout out Carl Spackler for 5 All Steelers Talk memberships. If you want to join the AST Nation, do so by hitting the link in the description below. Which brings us to Stephen Cornfield. The Steelers offseason is like watching the Pirates. Oh, gosh. You can hit a couple home runs and make you cheer, but then end up sad and questioning it at the end.
Oh,
that's a brutal one.
It's so sad. It's a tough one right now. Man, Steven, I hope that's not how you actually feel right now. Because, I mean, dang, the Pirates are way worse off than the Steelers are. It's not that fun this offseason, that's for sure. So I certainly understand how you're feeling there, Steven, but I'm not there yet with you in terms of Steelers Pirates being on the same level. Oh, look, that kind of hurt my feelings just even saying it.
Look, when it comes to the Steelers offseason, it is a lot about, shaking the rust off, but they went into it, and maybe this makes you feel better, maybe this makes you feel 10 times worse, but they went into it with the mindset that they had a plan, and that plan was for the future. And this was going to be the offseason where, they're going to compete and they're going to try their best to win a Super Bowl in 2025. But at the end of the day, they're looking at 2026 as like, that's it. We're ready to do this. Let's go try and, it's over. That's the end of the quote unquote rebuild, if that's what you want to call it, or whatever, the regrouping. But that's where it is. And they weren't going to let anything risk that. The George Pickens trade was involved the entire time. January 16th, we were on this podcast, and I only know that because shout out to a couple of people who DM'd it to me. January 16th, we were on this podcast talking about how the Pittsburgh Steelers were emotionally and mentally ready to move on from George Pickens. And that just shows you that they had a plan. They stuck to the plan. The plan's going to be rocky and it might not work out. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're great. I'm not going to defend the Steelers. I'm just going to say, if it makes you feel better, they went into it with an understanding of what was going to happen this offseason outside of Aaron Rodgers. That was not planned. That is, we are here and we don't know how we got here, but we're going to have to ride this thing out.
Yeah.
Nate Moore, when can we expect our next wide receiver 2 to be on the roster? That's a good question. And I think it comes with some uncertainty because I could see it happening like within the next 24 hours. The Steelers just going out and getting Gabe Davis off waivers tomorrow. And there it is. Boom. The Steelers got their guy. Or I could see them waiting until the middle of June. I don't think it goes to training camp, but I could see the middle of June where Roman doesn't look great at OTAs and they're going, we need a wide receiver. Let's go get somebody, maybe July if like everything goes awry. But if it gets to, are you comfortable with it getting to July? Like, does that make you, how nervous does that make you?
It makes me incredibly nervous, but I was going to say, I think this is going to stretch out for the next couple of months and we're not going to see a replacement until probably sometime in training camp. That makes me feel very nervous. And that makes me feel even more certain that they're just totally unsure of this offensive situation. But yeah, I'm thinking this is going to ride out for a little bit. I'm kind of preparing to strap in and just see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. Maddie, do we look like fools? Remember for 3 months, shout out Maddie, dude. Do we look like fools sitting around waiting for Rodgers? Wouldn't bringing in Rodgers still have noise? Who would be the best wide receiver to replace Pickens? Definitely look like fools waiting for Rodgers, but at this point, the noise has calmed to literally nothing. The Steelers are going to sign Rodgers, and I'm still unless something changes, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen by minicamp. That's my belief of the situation.
Okay.
That's in like 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. Where a lot of conversations have been had. The Steelers and Aaron Rodgers are still talking, and I think they have tried to ignore the noise as well. They do look like fools. This is a very loud offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the loudest they've had in a long time, and it's not great. The noise is here, but I think it comes with, like, we have waited a long time for the Steelers to have a spotlight on them and for people to kind of recognize them. And well, that's here. It happened. I don't know if it's going to be good. Best wide receiver to replace Pickens. Your thoughts on that one?
I think probably Romeo Doubs is the most ideal candidate, and because he would come in as the number 2 option behind DK Metcalf. I think I'm still stuck there on the fit and the age there. I love the Olave mention. If someone like a Jalen McMillan does have that breakout year ahead of him and you identified it now and brought him in, excellent. But yeah, I think Romeo Dobbs would probably be the person I'm targeting now, seeing if I can work out that deal for maybe a 4th round pick. But yeah, I think that would probably help Rodgers the most as well whenever he signs.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd go Olave if we're going to just like go ideal options. I think realistically though, like Lazard, Dobbs, I do think Dobbs is going to be like they drafted wide receivers. Dobbs has got to be on the docket somewhere. All options that I would consider if I'm the Steelers. What's your go-to bourbon and old-fashioned recipe? This is from yesterday or 2 days ago, where that's the drink. I don't know if you have a drink of choice. Mine's an old-fashioned, and my go-to is a McKenna with your normal. Dude, my dad, that was my parents' like Christmas gift to me, which was phenomenal. It was just like, here, we're stocking your bar, and I didn't know what good liquor was until they did that, and I was just like, dude, this is so we had a party, one of the bottles got finished, and I went to go replace it, and I was like, what? This is not $20. What are we doing here? How did this happen?
This was the Burnett's of old fashions.
That's what I was like. I've never bought this. Mine's got a dog on the label, and it's $19.99. This is not the same. My old fashioned recipe is just as simple: a little orange peel, splash of bitters, and some bourbon in there, and then we're chilling.
Put a little sugar cube in there.
If I'm feeling it, I'll put a little sugar cube in there.
Doing the whole works.
Yeah. I try to keep it. Pretty. Oh, and what's the other thing? There's something else that you put in there too, but I don't remember.
Did you say bitters already?
Yeah, I said bitters. There's something else. We'll get to it eventually. Gage, does GP leaving mean DK will switch to number 14? Should he you going 14 or 4 for George Pickens?
I thought 4 was kind of sick. But if Pickens is gone, I would just take my old number back if I could. But yeah, I think 4 is a pretty sick number.
I'm a 4 guy. I think 14 is the ugliest number you could have. Like, it's so gross to me. It's so gross. I don't know why anybody would want it. I'd go 4 if I was DK. Wouldn't be surprised to me. For anybody who bought a DK jersey, yikes. You gotta wait. Like the Will Howard 18 came out. That feels pretty okay. Caleb Johnson got 20 or something. I'd wait it out on the rest of these guys. You never know when something's gonna happen.
That's a good call.
Jerry, call up Cam Newton. He is free. Cam Newton to play quarterback. Look at dude. Cam would be fun. I mean, at this point, there's Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton. It doesn't matter. Their noise is the same. The only difference is that one's going to be obnoxious in one way and one's going to be obnoxious in another. And that's all it's going to be. It's going to be a good time. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. It's a lot of fun.
So a lot of fun. I love it.
McMillan had 8 touchdowns last season, 461 yards on 31 receptions. That's a pretty good year, to be very honest with you. If he's on the trade block, I think I like the stat line. I don't know how much Tampa Bay Buccaneers football that I've watched in the last year, but I am a fan of that stat line. 8 touchdowns is pretty decent, especially when you had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin go down this season. Again, if he's that's who the Steelers are looking for right now, are just the guys that they need to, or that are going to be available, no matter what this summer. That there's too many wide receivers. Let's call some people. If McMillan's that guy, I would not be upset about it. All right, let's keep it trucking here. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say, I think Omar should just take a listen, because I feel like we just identified a nice list of people to talk about.
I agree. All right. Noah, you mentioned this morning there are wide receiver options. Will the Steelers move quickly, or will they drag their feet again and watch wide receivers sign elsewhere and miss out again? Okay, so I wanted to address this one because I think it's important to highlight that the Steelers are going to hit a place where one wide receiver is going to sign, and there are 2 points where that could happen. The first time is Gabe Davis could get claimed off waivers tomorrow, head elsewhere, and the Pittsburgh, everybody freaks out. Wide receiver option gone. That moves no needles. None whatsoever for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, if Gabe Davis clears, is sitting there for 2 or 3 days, and then gets signed elsewhere, okay, the words would be had. There are conversations that should definitely be going on in Pittsburgh. But if they're thinking trade, they're going to wait until at least past minicamp. Like, they have to see what Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin can do, and if Robert Woods looks okay. And if they feel okay there, great. If not, they will make a move. But unfortunately, I have a hard time, unless it's Gabe Davis, saying that the Steelers are going to make a move before. This is just a guess, but going to make a move before training camp happens. I don't know if it's coming.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I think it's going to drag out.
Yeah. Broderick Wallace has everyone seen the Steelers' alternate helmets that is being disputed this upcoming season. Okay. I don't know any details or when they're coming or anything like that. I'm pretty sure they're the yellow ones. Again, I'm just guessing here, but just everybody keeps saying the yellow ones. I don't know if they'll look differently. I just know they're going to be yellow, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of the yellow helmets. I think they should bring back the yellow with the black and yellow jerseys, like the thick, you know what I'm talking about? Midnight black. No, just the black with the yellow, thick yellow stripes on the side. Block numbers, fire. So fire, but I would imagine that's what's coming. I don't know what week. I also kind of hope that they get Ireland helmets. That would be super sick. Don't know if that's going to happen either, but that would be awesome.
I'd be down for both of those things.
Maddie, I want to be mad, but at the same time, they know when to get a wide receiver. But doesn't this put us in the same situation as last year? One good wide receiver and quarterback situation is still uncertain. Where do we go from here? I think the Steelers are somewhat calm on what's going to happen, and they looked at it as this is like the right time to say we have enough time to, again, make things somewhat okay. What's your easement level? As like, you know, right now things are rattled. Shit, it's a bull in a china shop. Not everything's crazy. The Steelers sign Aaron Rodgers. What's your how much do you relax as a fan of the Steelers?
I think I come down from, maybe I'm at like a 6 or 7 on the panic meter or something like that right now to around like a 4. I feel like now we're moving in a direction once that starting quarterback comes in. Because then I feel like, okay, now there's hope that they're going to move on to who's the next wide receiver target to bring in, because Aaron Rodgers is going to have a say in that and want to have more weapons around him. So if Rodgers comes in, I feel a little bit more at ease that we're going towards more better and more competitive team in 25.
Yeah, I agree. Like you sign Rodgers and it's like, okay, now it's just find a wide receiver. That's all you got to do. It's a difficult one, but it's all you get. Right now, there are 2 massive question marks staring at you from the loudest positions, and they're scary. So I get it. I agree with you. I think you sign Rodgers, it goes below 5 for sure. Mm-hmm. To be decided, enigma. Which player needs to show improvement the most this season? I mean, I think the easy answer after today is Roman Wilson. Maybe you have another name in mind?
No, I was going to say, I think the wide receiver, like either Roman or Calvin Austin, is probably under the most scrutiny and being watched the most to take the next step one way or the other. Yeah, it's hard to pick someone on the defensive side of the ball right now that it's like, you better take that next step. The only person that comes to mind even a little bit as I'm talking here is Herbig. Is maybe they want to see if he can take another step to figure out the edge rushing situation moving forward. But that's really it. I'm looking at wide receivers pretty much for the rest of the time here for more improvement.
I like the Herbig conversation. That's a fun one, especially after bringing Jack Sawyer in. I will say, not drafting that Elick, not even going to try his last name out of Stanford, the wide receiver in the 5th round, is really looking weird right now. Is really, really looking weird for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But yeah, I think it's Pat Freiermuth. I think it's Roman Wilson. I think it's Calvin Austin. Like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, you had all of the questions on you last year about if you're good enough, and you weren't. You have to shut it down this year. I think that's where you go if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Blessed Light, AB equals wide receiver 2. I don't think AB's I don't know. Would you accept AB back into the Ring of Honor?
In the Ring of Honor? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Not on the never on the roster.
He's never on the roster. I was like, no, what are we doing here, bud?
No.
I would actually sign AB on the roster just for the vibes. But no, Ring of Honor would be great. He's the best wide receiver in the history of the team. He's the craziest for sure, but you can't deny what he did on the field.
Yeah. You almost kept George Pickens around long enough, but I hear you. I hear what you say. Miguel, Steelers low key in tank and rebuild. I will say to this. Anybody who thinks that the Steelers are in tank mode, they're not. But the rebuild part, they've been rebuilding. And people get so mad at me for using that word. Like they're like constantly. People are like, "Why they're not in rebuild? The Steelers don't rebuild. They've never rebuilt. They just suck." I'm like both things I think could be true. I think both things could be true. Like the Steelers have not been. They've stayed afloat. They've won games, but they revamped their entire offensive line. They have now reshaped their entire wide receiver core. They redid pretty much their entire defense over the last 2 years outside of Cam, TJ, Alex Highsmith, and Minka Fitzpatrick. And they just got the Cam replacement. I would imagine Minka's next. Like that's my guess. I'm not a tank and rebuild. I think they've done it. I think they're a quarterback and now a wide receiver away from kind of finishing the job. And if this is going to happen, who knows? But I think it's there.
Yeah.
Deluxe Skittles, Darius Slayton worth a trade. So good question. The Steelers were in on Darius Slayton last year. Mm-hmm. He re-signed with New York, which I think is, I think it's only a 1-year deal though, which is, could put him on the block during the season. Are you definitely not on the block right now? Are you willing to wait till during the season to make a trade?
Man. No, that feels like too long.
Yeah.
And especially if you wait until the season and the prize is Darius Slayton, then it's definitely not worth the wait. I think that's just, you're going to miss out on too many other opportunities and probably pass on players that could have helped more for, less cost. I don't think they're, unless you want to give up like a 7th in 2026 right now, and the Giants are willing to play ball on that, but that just doesn't feel likely.
I agree. I don't know if you'd like, I just think the noise would get so loud if you don't have somebody in place by week 1. A means to an end. Why don't the Steelers wear color rush jerseys more often? I don't know. I wish I had an answer to that one. I really don't. I think they should all the time. Don't get me wrong. Steelers jerseys are fantastic. They have some of the best uniforms in the NFL. But I do like they have some of the best alternatives in the NFL too. Tomlin, sleek, bold. I'm all about all of it. I wish I had an answer to that one, but I really don't. Like, I don't know if it's a Rooney thing. I don't know if it's a Tomlin or an Omar, a Steelers thing. I have no idea. To be decided enigma. Really, wide receivers under scrutiny with the quarterbacks we've had.
Sure.
You're not wrong. And that's that's the thing is, like, you go back to the Omar winning or losing this thing. There's a possibility that, like, George has played with Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields. Those have been his 5 NFL quarterbacks. Those are ridiculously bad quarterbacks. That's the Cleveland Browns of quarterbacks right there. That's how bad that looks. That's so bad. Yeah. And he's still managed to, his worst season's like 840 yards. Mm-hmm. That's pretty okay. I think there's a real chance that, like, he goes to Dallas and has 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns and is an all-pro and looks absolutely ridiculous with Dak Prescott. I think there's a chance that could actually happen.
For sure. It's definitely possible. That's a great point from TBD Enigma there. Yeah, quarterback play has to improve regardless. But yeah, I still think wide receivers there's just no one there to even help right now besides DK. Yeah. So it's hard for me to not look at them more.
I agree. All right, got a couple more here. Can we get a wide receiver like Cedric Tillman? Cedric Tillman to me is not a guy I don't think I'd be going after right now. I think he's a little lower down the list of, again, younger option, but just not an option I don't think I'm into. Your thoughts on Cedric Tillman?
Yeah, again, I like the parameters we're setting here in terms of targets for replacements, but yeah, I don't think any of them are gonna. No one's within range of like this 4th or 5th round pick for 26 that could be had before training camp, and so I'm just like, I don't know. It feels like a wash at that point.
I agree. What about Zaire Franklin from Eddie the First? See, not Zaire Franklin. He's the inside linebacker. Zachary Franklin, excuse me, from Vegas. See, I'm a fan of this one, to be honest with you. Do I think he's wide receiver 2? No. Do I think that he's got a bunch of potential? Like, And if Calvin Austin could be wide receiver 2 and is that good, that's a good mix. Definitely. Like I'm actually like a big Zachary Franklin guy. I've been a Zachary Franklin guy. I don't think he's a name that they'd trade, but I do like him.
Yeah. Again, another good fit in that umbrella of receivers that would be nice to have in the wide receiver room. I would like to have him as well. I don't think it's really possible right now.
All right. I agree. I don't think that he's on the block. And as we close it out, we'll end with this one from Carl Spackler. DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, Nelson Aguilar, I'd be okay with, I think, with what we have. I will say that I don't think Tyler Boyd is ever going to be an option for the Steelers because of somebody in that building does not want Tyler Boyd to be a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers. DJ Chark, maybe I'm okay with, not the worst option. Nelson Aguilar, I think, is a decent number 2, to be honest with you, like a low end number 2, but not the worst in the whole world. Your thoughts on these 3?
Yeah, I just don't see the value improvement being anything more than marginal over just what's in house. Like, it's just so hard. It's so hard for me to look at even like a Nelson Aguilar who does have, I guess, recent production to indicate that he could do that on a low end wide receiver too, like you're saying. I think I would just rather give Calvin Austin the chance, especially if we're in this like mystery offense, who's the quarterback situation. You're not getting that much more out of Aguilar than anyone else lining up.
I agree. I just, there are going to be a lot of veterans on the table. And I think to me, like, that's where you draw the line is like, what's better than what you have? And if it's not much, then why you can't make a move. Like you have to hold yourself back from it. And like, that's, you got to somewhat be picky, but not too picky. It's a fine line to walk now that the Steelers are in it. It is not ideal. Do I think it's possible to get out of? Definitely. Do I think it's easy? No. Do I think that you could make a mistake very easily by signing a guy that's going to, you don't want to sign Van Jefferson and then avoid other guys, and I think a DJ Chark might be that. Tyler Boyd doesn't come to Pittsburgh, but I think you're walking that line with a number of names where you're like, not the worst signing, but you need somebody, and you don't always need somebody. Sometimes I think that hurts more than it's going to help. And the Steelers are in that place right now, unfortunately, after this trade. All right. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Jake, let them know where you could find or where they can find you one more time before we head out of here.
Heck yeah, you can follow me on X at Jake_Atsby, and all of the hockey writing that I do can be found on si.com/on/breakaway. Yeah. Thanks for having me back on here. No, appreciate it, buddy.
Shout out. All right, guys. With that said, it's a good one out there. There's some worry, but look, it's April 7th. Football doesn't get played for a couple of months. We got plenty to talk about, and the Steelers have plenty to figure out. With that said, enjoy another one. Enjoy a beautiful day in the Berg. We'll be back tomorrow. Peace.